My husband died at the breakfast table, and my daughter said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" It's Mason's birthday. That was the moment I realized I didn't just lose David. I lost Emily, too. Before we begin, subscribe and tell me in the comments, what's the one line you can't unhear? He died right after laughing at the creamer I bought. "Powder again?" he said, tapping a spoon against the mug. "If I drop dead from this, it'll be your fault." He chuckled. I rolled my eyes. Then he went quiet. His hand twitched. The spoon slipped. His eyes widened like he forgot how to breathe. I was still holding the butter knife. I dropped it. I screamed his name. He was gone before I could touch him, before my knees hit the tile, before I could ask, "David, is this one of your goddamn jokes?" It wasn't. The 911 operator's voice was calm, while mine cracked and stuttered. I did chest compressions on the man I'd shared 38 years with. But I already knew. I knew from the way his head tilted, from how cold his hands were. When the paramedics arrived, I was on the floor next to him. I moved without remembering, signed without reading, heard words like massive, unrecoverable, time of death. I just nodded. They covered him. I sat beside him. And then I called my daughter, Emily, my only child. It rang 5 times. She answered with music in the background, her voice bright and distracted. "Mom, what's up?" I was shaking. "Emily, it's your dad. He collapsed. He's gone." There was silence, a beat, then, "Oh, Mom, today's Mason's birthday. Can I call you later?" I couldn't speak. She added, "We're doing brunch." "He's got friends over, I'll call tonight, okay?" I didn't say a word, not "please," not "how dare you." I lowered the phone and ended the call myself. The silence afterward was unbearable, like the air had thickened. I looked at David's chair, still warm, still holding the shape of him, and I sat beside it, held his hand for over an hour, like if I stayed there long enough I could bargain time back. When they took his body, I didn't ask for a moment. What was the point? The moment I needed had already passed. I went upstairs, lay in our unmade bed. David's phone buzzed once on the nightstand. A missed call log, 10:36 p.m. Outgoing. To Emily. No voicemail, no answer. He tried to talk to her the night before. He knew, somehow. And she ignored him. That was the moment I stopped grieving like a widow and started thinking like a mother who needed to protect something. Emily didn't call back that night, didn't ask if I needed anything, didn't even text, and I didn't sleep. I lay in David's spot, clutching his phone to my chest, feeling like our whole family had just folded in on itself. The funeral was scheduled for Friday. Closed casket. I didn't even call Emily again. She had my silence. She earned it. The night before the service, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the forms the funeral home had sent. David's favorite mug, still unwashed, was in the sink. I couldn't bring myself to clean it. I poured a glass of wine and told myself, just get through tomorrow. Then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed. Instagram notification. I tapped it. Emily had posted a photo of her and Mason at brunch. She was in a pink sundress. He had his arm around her. Caption: "Best birthday ever champagne, love my person." Posted 10:12 a.m., right in the middle of the service. While I stood at the podium, trying to read a eulogy without shaking, she was holding a mimosa and smiling for the camera. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Then I turned the phone face down and pushed it across the table like it might catch fire. That was the moment it turned. Not from grief to anger, from silence to clarity. I needed answers. Not from her. From David. I went to his study, pulled open the drawer where he kept every bill, every bank statement, every carefully labeled folder. And I started to dig. At first, it was nothing. Just neat columns of monthly expenses, retirement updates, tax documents. He had been obsessive, meticulous. And then, tucked behind a folder labeled Utilities 2021, I found it. A blue file marked Emily Transfers. My hands froze. My heart did too. Inside, transaction records. From David's account to Emily's. $1,500. $3,200. $6,000 labeled apartment rent. And one, $11,000 with the note, Emergency, Mason surgery. I stared at the amounts. 15 transfers. Over the last 12 months. No discussions, no mention, not once. My husband, who insisted we split grocery bills to be fair, had been quietly funding our daughter's life. At the back of the folder was a letter. Folded, handwritten, legal pad paper. David's handwriting. Emily, this is the second time you've lied about the reason for the transfer. I want to trust you, but if I find out you're using this money for something else again, I'll stop. No more excuses, no more covering. You're an adult now. Act like one. Dad. It wasn't dated, it wasn't signed, but I knew when it was written. The ink was smudged near the bottom. He never sent it. He was still trying to protect her, even when she was draining him. I sat down at his desk and placed the letter flat on the surface. My hand was shaking. I didn't feel grief. I didn't even feel anger. I felt something colder. Resolve. She didn't just miss his funeral, she erased him while he was still alive. She showed up the following Wednesday, no call, no warning. Just a knock at the door around 11 a.m. I opened it to find Emily standing there in jeans and a blazer, like she was coming from a job interview. Behind her, Mason waited in the driver's seat of their car, engine running. "Mom," she said, forcing a half smile. I didn't smile back. I stepped aside. "Come in." We walked into the living room. David's chair sat untouched. The room still smelled faintly like his cologne. "Can I get you some coffee?" I asked, out of reflex. She shook her head. I felt bad. I should have come sooner." I sat down across from her. My phone was already recording from my pocket. She fiddled with her sleeves. "Mason says I've been distracted, and he's right. I didn't handle this well." I looked at her face, searching for grief. Found none. Just discomfort. Like she was sitting through a performance she didn't rehearse. I let the silence stretch until she filled it. We had plans, the brunch, his birthday. I didn't know how bad it was with Dad. "He wasn't sick," I said. "He died between spoonfuls of cereal." She winced, like the bluntness offended her more than the death itself. "I meant, he didn't say anything. You didn't either." "You didn't ask," I said flatly. That shut her up. I reached down, pulled the blue folder from beside my chair, and placed it on the table. She didn't touch it. "What's that?" "Evidence," I said. Then I opened it. Turned the pages toward her, one by one. She looked, blinked, looked away. "I don't know what you think this proves," she said carefully. "It proves he was helping you, a lot, behind my back." "Those were loans," she said quickly. "We were in a rough patch. Mason had a procedure. Rent piled up. Dad offered. He also wrote you a letter. You lied, Emily." I handed her the page. She read it silently, then folded it. Slowly, like it was a receipt. "He didn't send this." Number, "He didn't." Then maybe he changed his mind. And that was the moment I knew. She wasn't sorry. She was calculating. She came because she thought I might be the one left holding the purse. I stood up. She flinched slightly, expecting a scene, but I only said, "I'll let you know if I need anything." She looked like she wanted to say something, but instead she stood, nodded, and left. Mason never came inside. I watched them from the front window. Emily got in the car. He leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. Then they drove away, and I thought, you have no idea what's coming. The next morning, I called our attorney. Alan Clean had handled our wills, our house deed, and David's business filings for over 20 years. He picked up on the second ring. "I need to revise my estate plan," I said. "I can come in tomorrow." He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. I gathered what I needed: the bank statements, the folder with Emily's transfers, the unsent letter, the audio from her visit. And one more thing, a handwritten letter addressed to Lily, to be opened on her 18th birthday. Because if I was going to burn the bridge behind me, I wanted to make sure the next generation knew why. Alan's office smelled like lemon polish and old paper. I sat across from him and laid the documents out like cards in a losing hand. "I want everything placed in a trust for Lily," I said. "Education only until she's 25. Housing is fine, not a penny for her parents." He didn't blink. He just nodded and started writing. "And if Emily or Mason challenge it, they lose access permanently?" "Yes, and visitation rights during the trust period. Gone." He paused, looked up. "Cora, this will hurt her." "She's already hurt him," I said. "And me." It took 2 hours. We reviewed it twice. Added Lily's letter to the file. Alan included a clause referencing the recording, and the transfers, and David's handwriting. He leaned back, finally, and said, "No cracks. No angles for them to work." "Good," I said, "because I'm done patching up after other people's decisions." The final version was notarized and filed by end of day. I walked out of the office into the cool afternoon air and felt, not peace, not relief, but something sharp, clear, control. That night I sat at the kitchen table, David's chair beside me, a glass of wine in my hand, and Lily's sealed letter resting under my palm. 6 pages, about who her grandfather really was, what he sacrificed, what her mother chose. I didn't write with bitterness. I wrote with precision. I told her the money wasn't a gift, it was a responsibility. A line in the sand she didn't ask for, but needed to understand. I sealed it, labeled it. "For Lily, open on your 18th birthday." And for the first time in weeks, I felt the silence in the house shift. Not because David was gone, but because I had finally drawn the boundary he never could. Lily turned 18 on a Tuesday. She showed up that afternoon with a plain envelope in her hand, the one I'd given Alan for safekeeping 5 years ago. She hadn't opened it. Not without me. "I want to read it here," she said quietly. We sat together on the living room couch. David's chair stood across from us like a witness. Lily unfolded the letter slowly. She read every word with her lips pressed together. 6 pages. She didn't rush. When she finished, she didn't speak right away. She looked out the window, then at me. "Is all of this still true?" "Every word." She reached for my hand and held it tight. "Thank you for telling me," she whispered. Then she pulled out her phone, opened a video, a short clip, her in front of a judge. "I'd like to legally change my middle name to Coraline, after my grandmother." My breath caught. I didn't cry, not then, but something broke in my chest, something that had been bracing for disappointment for too long. Later that day, we went to her graduation ceremony. When they called her name, Lily Coraline Peterson, she looked right at me and smiled, not politely, not performative, but like she saw me and chose me. Emily was there too. She sat alone in the back row. Mason wasn't with her. Her dress was formal. Her expression wasn't. She didn't come over after the ceremony, didn't approach Lily, didn't even glance at me as we walked by. She looked smaller than I remembered, not older, just diminished. Lily hugged me in the parking lot and said, "I want to live with you next year." My roommate dropped out. I laughed. Told her the guest room still had her posters. That night, we watched a movie together. She fell asleep on the couch, her head on my shoulder. I left the hallway light on, just like I used to when she was little. And I thought, she's safe, she's seen. And that's more than I ever got to give her mother. We didn't talk about Emily that night, not once. She had become background noise, a ghost with a phone. Her silence more honest than any apology. And as I tucked Lily in, kissed her forehead and whispered good night, I passed David's photo in the hallway, touched the frame. "She's going to be okay, love. We're going to be okay."